But we had a minute of chit chat. Okay, let's do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live discussion where today we're going to be talking about the 2023 email benchmarking report by GetResponse. I'm Jack, the social media and PR lead here at GetResponse, and I'm delighted to be joined by our head of content and partnerships, Michał Baczynski, who has been heavily involved in this report. So Michał, thank you so much for taking the time today to go through this report in depth with us in our wonderful office studio here.
Hey everyone, hey Jack, thanks for inviting me. Super happy to be here with you.
It's a pleasure. So first of all, what we're going to do is just give this a little bit of context in terms of the structure and how this is going to work, because there's so much that we can get into today. So what we have is 5 key insights that we want to share with you from this report. And the way it's going to work is we're going to dive into the data, first of all, then we're going to look at the trends within the data. And then finally, for each point, what we should be doing as marketers by looking at these trends. But before we do any of that, I just want to point out that we do have a live chat enabled here. So if anybody has any questions for us, then please fire them through. We'll do our best to pick them up and do our best, of course, to answer them. So, Michał, first and foremost, though, before we get into the nitty-gritty and all of that data that I mentioned before, I'd like us to just touch more generally on the report. If you could be so kind as to give us some background to it, the methodology, why we do it, and just a broad overview, if you would.
Absolutely. So, folks, I hope you've actually seen this report before. If not, this is what it looks like. You can check it out on getresponse.com/resources. Is going to be the one at the top. The email marketing benchmarks report is something that we've been doing since 2017. So that's quite a long time. We've been doing initially every quarter, but as we kept expanding it, as we kept adding more data to check, we actually had to take longer timeframes when analyzing our data. So right now it's an annually updated report. The latest edition has looked at 7 billion emails sent by our customers throughout 2022. And we actually focused on marketers, on businesses that use GetResponse. These are only paying customers that have been active with us for some time, and they have a list of contacts of above 500. If you've known our report before, we've actually in the past looked at slightly different segments. So we were looking at folks with 1,000 plus subscribers, but as we looked at our data, the customers, often B2B agencies, for example, are using our services. They tend to have smaller lists. So we thought it'd be a better representation, thing for us to actually focus on smaller lists as well and look at the data from there. So we aggregate the data, we anonymize it, and then look at the commonalities. So within the report, we've actually got around 30 tables, charts, along with expert comments from our team members. And we looked at multiple things like what are the best practices for sending emails. Quite often people ask us, like, what's the best time to send an email? What's the best day to send an email? Or whether you should use a pre-header, personalization, all that stuff. All the questions that we've asked ourselves in the past, we decided to test that on the customer base. And we've put it together in a form of a report that you can check out online. It's ungated. So this is what it is. And, we do it every single year. Every single year, we try to find out something new.
Thanks so much, Michał. So yeah, super exciting, massive report here for us to really get into. I was actually going to ask you, my follow-up question was, why should this be of interest to marketers? But I think you've kind of comprehensively covered that there. So I think let's skip on to the next slide where I mentioned before that we've got these 5 main insights, which we're going to go into one by one very deeply, but you can see them here on the screen. We're going to go through these one by one. So I think, no need for us to necessarily spell them all out. I think let's just jump into it and go for the first one, which, as we can see, is open rates. So Michał, here we can see the key finding here. Open rates are up by 7.14 percentage points, but the click-through rates are down. So first and foremost, can you talk to us about the data here and what we're seeing?
Sure. So open rates are probably like the number one metric that email marketers look at when they analyze their email campaigns. And over the years, people have been asking us what the average email open rate is. Actually, there was a moment when we saw that there was a drop in average open rates a couple of years back, but then during the pandemic, more people were in-house, staying at home, checking their emails longer, so the open rates gone up. But later, actually, as we saw, they were quite stable. But since 2021, late 2021, we see a massive increase in open rates, 7 percentage points. That's quite a lot for an average, open rate as an increase. But at the same time, marketers, they probably want to be happy about the results, but at the same time, we're seeing that the click-through rates are slightly down. They're not by a lot, but on one hand, we think that the engagement rate is up, but on the other hand, the main metric, the click-through rates, that actually it translates into conversions and translates into money. This is down.
Okay. And so to then go to the why, we can see here on the slide that we have the Apple MPP. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So actually in 2021, Apple introduced this new privacy protection program, Apple Mobile MPP, right? It stands for. So in 2021, I think they rolled it out in September. They started asking their users if they want to be tracked by marketers. So if you're using their mail client, it asks you like, hey, do you want to marketers to know when you open the messages or where you open them from? And the way the question was framed, it was obvious that no one would say yes. It says like, do you want to be tracked? Oh, I don't want to be tracked. So they introduced this. So in the last report that we did, we only saw like a fraction of that impact. It was the first 3 months we saw, okay, there's some average increase of 2-3 percentage points. But now after a full year of data gathering, we can see that the average opens are up by 7 percentage points. And what the Apple MPP really does, because marketers cannot be tracked. How does it happen? Well, Apple actually checks the email first, opens automatically the messages for the for the recipient, and only then sends it over to the recipient. So we, as a email service provider, we mark it as an automated open. So unfortunately, that actually affects our ability, or marketers' ability, to track message opens. Clicks are untouched, so they are still like the most relevant, the most trustworthy metric, but opens unfortunately are not ideal anymore.
Okay, got you. All makes sense. And so then thinking from the marketer's perspective, I can see that we've got 3 bullet points here in terms of, how we should be rethinking with mind of this. Do you want to take us through 1 or 2 of these points?
Sure. So by the way, Apple is not the main email client in every single location. So for example, if your main market is Poland, you might not be so impressed by these changes, because most marketers don't use, or most recipients don't use, Apple devices. But on the global scale, they actually account for about 60% of all opens. They're very popular in many countries, so it is an important thing. So what happens now? Marketers actually should refocus or shift their focus to a different metric. Opens have never been ideal, because there are instances where, for example, if you're a B2B company, for example, when you receive emails, you cannot open them up with images, or you have to use some external devices, or you have to you have to open the emails, but then go to the online version of the message to check everything. So they were not ever never ideal. So nowadays, I think the best thing to do is shift to click-through rates. And it's not just about checking how engaging your email campaigns are. The more important part is actually moving your automation programs, your automation strategies, to focus on that metric. Because quite often, marketers were using these auto resend campaigns. So send an email, if no one opens it, resend a message within like 24 hours. This no longer is going to be relevant. Okay, if someone didn't open, that's fine, right? But if they sent a message like they opened but they didn't click, that automated resend could actually cause frustration, because you would get a follow-up saying that, oh, I see that you opened this email. Well, I didn't. Apple did it for me. So the number one thing is to focus actually to the metric that makes more sense, that is more trustworthy, which is click-through rates. And generally, when you're going to be segmenting your audience, focus on what you know about these people, what they're actually engaging with, not just talk about opens, as they're a bit less trustworthy these days. And if you're a publisher or someone that wants to work with publishers, you have to actually understand that opens are no longer as great, because, for example, when you have a publisher, they quite often will tell you, okay, my average open rates are 30%. You can buy an ad in my newsletter for, let's say, $3,000 per send. Well, that 30% is an average, as we can see, or almost an average. So it's not really a great result. So for you as a marketer that wants to advertise via that newsletter, you might not get a large amount of clicks. So if someone actually told you what their unique click-throughs were, well, that's a different story. That's a different conversation, and that's why I recommend that people should be focusing on that metric instead.
Okay, folks, that's great nugget of knowledge there from our man Mihal for point number one. I feel like we could keep talking about this, but yeah, let's move it on to point number two, because we've got to keep it moving. There's lots more to get through. So, okay, for this second slide, we've got automated emails continue to outperform manually deployed newsletters. Excuse me. So again, let's jump into the data, Mihal, and show us what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so this isn't something that we've seen for the first time. Automation has always outperformed newsletters, so that's a good thing. So what we're seeing is just a continuation of a trend that any automated message is actually going to outperform manually sent newsletters. Whether you know your audience quite well, you know when to send those emails, or you put great content in it, it still likely is going to underperform compared to automated emails.
Makes sense. So again, let's go to why this is the case, and then therefore feeding off of that, what marketers can be doing about it again.
Sure. So automated emails have higher open rates and higher click-through rates. And why this is happening is it's because these messages are usually triggered by an event or a change in behavior, change in profile of the customer or the recipient. So they are timely. And at the same time, they're personalized. Maybe not so much with the content, but in the context. So, for example, if someone signs up to an email list or for a newsletter, they will get an automated welcome email. That welcome email might be the same message that everyone gets, but it is sent at the time that works perfectly for that one individual recipient. The same goes with RSS to emails. These are the messages that are triggered by a blog update. So if you have a blog, you're a publisher, you publish something new, the email goes out automatically. And if you have a really tight audience that knows you, that really enjoys your content, they will open up that email. The same goes if you're an e-commerce brand, someone's browsing through your store, they check out the products, add it to the basket, but then don't end up buying. That triggers an automated message. All of that, as you can see, or as you can hear, is actually more personalized than a normal newsletter. That most marketers, when they send out newsletters, they send it at the time that actually works best for them. I just finished writing an email, finished the images, everything in there, the segmentation. Okay, let's send it over. They don't think twice that every single recipient is different and that has a different customer journey. They're at the different stage, so the message should be delivered to them at a different moment. So that's why automated emails always outperform newsletters.
Okay, all makes complete sense, of course. I have a bit of a pop question to ask you here. I hope that you're not too thrown by it, but
sure.
Why do you think people might be put off by automation? What do you think one of the biggest barriers is? Because clearly the benefits are there to see. What's putting people off, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's the same as we're currently seeing with AI. People are kind of afraid that it's not going to be personalized, that automated messages are going to be robotic. They're not going to be helping anyone. They're going to just be sending out mass emails, but automatically, and you cannot stop it. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest concern. But also, quite often we're just busy doing the stuff the way we are used to. So we don't have a moment to pause to think for a second. Okay, this is manual. Why is it taking so much time? Maybe there's a better way to do it. Like with welcome emails, if you're a small store, for example, why not take a moment, like, okay, how much time did I spend sending that manual email with my offer or telling about my brand? Why not just take a moment, prepare that email in advance, set up a scenario where it does itself automatically, and launch it. And the more you do it, the easier it gets, because you can see, okay, it's not robotic, but it's saving you time and saving you money, and it's actually outperforming your normal campaigns.
Yeah, okay, so it's that kind of initial time that might be putting people off, the initial effort they need to put in, but in the long run, of course, it's gonna pay back. Okay, cool. So I think we should move on at this point to point number 3 to keep it moving, where we have personalization, which is of course a massive one here. So the key point being personalization and segmentation remain key to driving engagement. So again, let's jump to the data. Mihal, take it away.
Sure. So this one is actually tricky. So one of the recommendations that most marketers say. If you read any articles about email marketing, it's going to say use personalization and email subject lines. Well, this is the best practice that everyone's preaching, but it's not always the case. And for the last 3 or 4 years, what we've seen, the marketers actually use personalization are not delivering the results that they should be. And there's a reason behind it, in my opinion. It's just, we've abused this tactic too many times. And everyone nowadays can know your name online, right? When they send out your email, send you an email, whether it's a spam, whether it's a legit email, they usually know your name. So that tactic no longer is appealing as it used to be in the past. But when you have personalized content within that message, now that's a different story. Everyone likes to have recommendations based on their activity, on the stuff that they've been doing. Netflix, I don't choose random movies. I choose movies that say, like, you've got 90+% recommendation or score on this, you're going to like it. The same goes with emails. If you can personalize the content so that people will enjoy it, and there are many ways to personalize the messages. One is to use, like, hey, first name, which is the basic thing that you can do. But if you actually know your audience, you know that these people, they need different things, they need a different angle, they have different worries. Okay, just segment your audience and send them a specific email. Doesn't have to be an automated scenario. It can be just a simple message that takes into consideration these people's needs.
Okay, all makes sense. I'm with you. So what I really found interesting about this, I think it might be on the next slide, but there's this tie here between personalization and loyalty, as per this data that you have here, which is super interesting. So yeah, if you could talk us through that.
Sure. So this data actually comes from a different report. This is from McKinsey from 2021. What they found out is that during the pandemic, people actually tried many more things. New payment methods, new buying methods, new brands. So people are not afraid to experiment these days, but at the same time, they do expect personalization to an extent that they get frustrated if they don't get personalized experiences. But if they do, they are more likely to retry the brand, so buy from them again, actually refer that brand to their friends, to their families, and become loyal to these brands. So they come back to these companies, they share their content, they buy from them again and again. So personalization, it's not just a nice thing like, oh, that email looks good, but it is actually about this long-term approach that we feel like, okay, this brand gets me. They know what I need. They deliver the things that I need in a way that actually works for me, and we have abundance of things to choose from, right? The competition is stiff, so if someone is doing it right, you're going to stick with the brand that does it right.
Very much so. So with all of that in mind, we've been through the theory, we've been through some of the data here with loyalty. Let's talk about some specifics then in terms of personalization. What can we be doing to really get into this?
Sure. So actually, this is I think a common theme these days, that as marketers, we are struggling a bit with tracking, with metrics, with the open rates, as we heard, with the third-party cookies, as we hear quite often as well.
It's a minefield.
Yeah. So it's harder for us. So what we need to do actually is to gather more data about customers, but gather it by ourselves on the website. From our email. So like when we send out emails, we see who opens them. Okay, that's not ideal. So we can see who clicks on these things. We can see who actually converts from them. If we have promo codes, we can see who uses these unique promo codes. So gather all that data and use it to actually segment your audience in the best possible way. If you can segment your audience, for example, using RFM analysis, well, find your top customers, send the best content to them, and see how it's going to perform. So gather that data, have first-party and zero-party data at your disposal, and apply it to truly deliver tailored communication to your audience. You don't have to send one email to every single person every single week. You might send 3 emails instead, but to smaller audiences, and test with them. Like if these 3 segments, they could be like 10% of your audience, send them tailored messages, see how the performance goes, and then you can decide if you want to contact the rest of the audience.
Okay, there's some gold in there for everybody, I hope. Some really good stuff. Thanks, Michal. Again, I'm conscious of time. We could keep talking about personalization. I'm sure. Let's move it on. This time to timing of emails, which is, I mean, I'm going to say it again. It's a big one, and it feels kind of inherently tied with the automation point that we made before. So yeah, I mean, we've got some very specific times here. So take it away. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, I love this question. I get it every single time when I'm teaching a class on email marketing. What's the best time to send an email? And this happens the same with social media. Everyone thinks like, okay, I need to find a quick way to, get into my people's inbox, to get in front of them. Well, it's funny that this question exists and everyone asks about it, because in one way there is the perfect time to send your messages, at the same time there isn't. So while we check every single year when you should send your emails, there are two time slots that usually work best, which is like between 4 and 6 a.m. So roughly before people wake up and go to work, that's the best time for opens and clicks. And then the next one later on when they're coming back around 5 to 7 p.m. Now, the reason why this happens is because the competition is quite fierce these days. And if there's a way to be at the top of the inbox, you have to choose that way. So, for example, if your audience wakes up at 6 a.m., when is the best time to send an email? Right before they wake up, or right around the time they wake up. So all the emails that they got the day before are below it. And people start with the email that they have at the top in their inbox. So that's why, it's better to be there. But, it might be different for your audience. And you might want to look into your Google Analytics data as well to see if these times are the best actually for conversion as well. Because the fact that people are opening your message on the commute doesn't necessarily mean that they are converting on your website.
Very true. Very true. And again, I'm going to hit you with another pop question here, but let's go a little bit deeper if we can. So we've done times. What about days of the week? Because that feels like a natural lead-on question here.
Yeah, that's the second question we get the most. And the truth is, any day beyond weekend is the best. So Tuesdays and Fridays, okay, these are the days that we're seeing the best results right now, but they're not far off from Monday or Wednesday. So again, think about your audience. If they're just normal people that go to work, after the weekend, they've got plenty of emails to go through. They're not ready to buy anything. They just want to get on through Monday and survive. Well, then maybe Tuesday is probably going to be better. And weekends, if your audience takes time off and they don't work on Saturday and Sunday, then it's not a good time to send them a message. But if your audience, on the other hand, actually reads your content and acts upon your content on weekends, because, for example, this is the extra stuff that they do outside of working hours, then choose weekends. Is actually going to be less competitive, so it might be easier for you to outperform others. But in general, the best practice is just to avoid weekends and go with Tuesdays and Fridays, I guess.
Good. Okay, cool. Really good specific stuff there. Just finally on that, what can we do to improve our chances here? I'm thinking in terms of specific tools to kind of be hitting these key times of the week.
Sure. So if you don't know your audience, or you have just too many segments to go over, the best thing they can choose here is either use automation or use these AI tools like Perfect Timing that we have inside GetResponse, that are actually going to be optimizing your messages based on either past behavior of your subscribers, so the opens and clicks that we know. And if you don't have that data, they're just going to look at the time where they signed up to your list. Or there's the other thing called time travel. So that's my actually preferred option. If, for example, you know that 4 and 6 a.m. performs well, but you have a large audience across multiple time zones, choose that one, because it's going to look at the time zone of each individual person and deliver that email to them at that time.
Okay, good stuff. I think we've got to move it on to the last slide in terms of the five key insights here, which is double opt-in popularity. So we can see here it's picked back up, but it comes at a cost. So yeah, take it away. What are we seeing here?
Sure. So I'm a bit sad about this whole point, because double opt-in is my preferred way to build an email list. So someone signs up to an email list, you check if they should or if they want to confirm it, or if they want to join the list, they click on it and they only join the list then. So it's like this double step process. I'm sad about this in one way, because we checked that, okay, more people are using it, but as a follow-up study that we did, we saw that the sign-up forms that use double opt-in actually have lower conversion rates, which makes sense. For example, when we used Facebook lead ad campaigns, there wasn't an easy way for us to present a message that said, "Hey, thanks for signing up. Thanks for getting this ebook. Now check your inbox to confirm this." So there are many places where you can't get this message across. So people don't have any incentive to go to their inbox to check it. And if you're paying for those leads, you don't want to, verify those lists. So what I'm seeing here is that, okay, more people are using double opt-in, but if you are looking at the number of leads on the number of clicks, and this is what we're seeing right now on this slide, it might not be cost efficient for you. And these days, especially this year, we want to be as cost efficient as possible. So what we did here, we did a quick calculation. So on the same audience size, the same number of visitors on your website, we checked how many we would actually convert. So we're looking at the average conversion rates of two types of forms, single and double opt-in. We checked how many people we would have as subscribers, and then we multiplied that by the average click-throughs. And we can see that double opt-in actually has fewer clicks. That's 302. And we've got 302. That's single opt-in, and we've got below 200. That's the double opt-in. So while I still believe some audiences should use double opt-in, publishers especially, I see that there might be a reason why you wouldn't choose double opt-in.
Okay, so this one's a little bit less cut and dry than the others, I suppose. There's a little bit more nuance to it. So I guess finally, just on this one, can you tell us the kind of things that businesses should be doing when it comes to considering whether they should be going with double opt-in or not?
For sure. So most importantly, check if you can get the message across on a thank you page or in your sign up form that people should do something, that they should check their inbox, that they should click on an email and verify their email, because this is gonna help you get more click-throughs. This is gonna help you get a better audience, more engaged audience, and this is gonna improve your deliverability. So it has many positive things. But if you're unable to optimize your form or your thank you page, then check if for that campaign you don't want to use single opt-in. I see marketers using thank you pages very, very well. And you can present videos with tutorials how to find that email in their mailbox, in their spam folder or somewhere. But if you cannot do that, or you want to do a quick campaign, single opt-in is the way to go.
Okay, cool. I think we've boxed that off pretty comprehensively. That's the top 5 there. So thanks, Mia, for taking us through all of that extremely comprehensive stuff that I hope everybody found useful. But before we sign it off, there is one last point that I want to go through, which is looking ahead into the future, looking ahead for the rest of 2023 and beyond. I think it would be remiss of us to do this chat and not mention AI, which I know that we've got a piece on here. So yeah, let's look forward and what else should we be looking into the future here?
Yeah, so I do think AI is something that we cannot go without these days, and email marketing is one of those areas where AI is going in very strongly. Even at GetResponse, we're already adding tools that simplify the ways we can set up the email campaigns. So if it can speed up the campaign deployment or content creation, definitely use it, try it, and see if it works for you. So just to give you a few ideas how you can use it these days. If you ever get writer's block to write, subject line, captivating subject line, or email content, AI can do that for you. Just, provide a few prompts, say what your business is about, what your offer is about, what kind of tone you want to go with, and it's going to generate that for you. And as someone that creates a lot of content, I know that the subject line part is super challenging, especially if after you've spent hours of crafting that email or hours of crafting that article. You just want to get it over with sometimes, and AI can help you with that as well. It can help you speed up the deployment. So for example, with perfect timing, you no longer have to think about what's the best time to send my email. If you want to do it at scale, so for example, you're an e-commerce store, you want to make sure that every single email provides relevant information, relevant recommendations. It can actually provide product recommendations. It could be simple as bestsellers in your store, or it could be based on people's purchases, or other people purchase something similar, or something else that they've looked at. So you can do multiple things in an automated way using AI. And as future deployments come, or as future developments come, we'll be able to do many more things. For example, A/B testing your campaigns. So before, we told marketers you should be A/B testing different things. Subject lines, you can easily in a few seconds generate multiple versions of the same subject line. What about email content? The same thing. Or copy for your buttons, CTA buttons as well. Super simple, super fast, and if it can help you get better results, why not test it?
So a similar message really to the automation, which is don't run away from it. embrace it, don't be scared.
Exactly.
It's a tool that we should be using.
And also, like with GetResponse now, one of the things that I really like is if you're not a designer and email campaigns, scared you off before, now you can actually use a couple of prompts, click here and there. The process is super simple. It can generate a whole template for you, along with the copy, along with images that fit your campaign, and you can just send it away. So really, it is not scary. It's easy, and you don't have to be a technical person, because I know AI might seem like a technical thing, but when I say prompts, I actually mean the keyword, not any technical stuff.
Okay, so there we have it, folks. No excuses with AI. Get involved and use it to your benefit. So that's our presentation. I'm just gonna hop quickly to a question. Actually, we've got two questions which are very similar here, Michał, which I'm going to put to you. I guess a kind of personal question to you here, which is, what surprised you most when it comes to the results of the report? Was there something that really jumped out that you weren't expecting to see?
Yeah, definitely the open rates were the biggest shock, because I expected Apple MPP to have an impact, but I didn't think it would have such a big impact. So definitely those 7 percentage points made a difference. Over the years, the personalization email subject line, it was something also that stood out. And another one, which actually I didn't share in the slides, we looked at how many emails per week marketers send and what the average results they get. And we found that folks that send up to 8 emails per week, which sounds like a lot, they get the optimal results. And the first thought was like, whoa, so many emails. How can one person actually get 8 emails and be engaged?
Yeah.
Actually, I think what we're seeing there is not the same email hitting the same person 8 times, but actually marketers taking time to segment their audience and send 8 or even more emails to individual audiences. So then it completely makes sense. It adds up so that marketers can send more messages, but to smaller audiences, and they get better results, which is what we all want.
Okay. Comprehensively answered as ever. I'm gonna give you a chance to take a sip of your water here, perhaps, whilst I go through some more questions that we have. So give me a moment here. Let's have a look. What have we got? Okay, so we're jumping back a little here. So apologies if these questions came in, and we're going to dip back into the presentation. We got a question here about the double opt-in. So would you say subscribers from double opt-in are more valuable than ones from single, or is there not much difference?
That depends on your business model, I would say. In To be honest, I would say most of the time double opt-in is going to be better, because the double opt-in method prevents you from having folks with wrong email addresses, with faulty email addresses, spam traps ever entering your email list. So you have a more engaged audience of people that hit twice or multiple times to say they said yes to opt-in into your email list. So I would say yes, they are more valuable. At the same time, if you're just looking at the numbers and you don't mind as much that you have 600 people versus 300, you want just more people clicking to your articles, then single opt-in is fine, depending on how you make money. Sometimes it's better to have a smaller, more engaged audience, because it's easier to analyze it, and it's easier to make business decisions based on data. Because if you have, let's say, 100 engaged folks, you can even interview them. You can even call them up and ask them, like, hey, why did you join my list? What are you expecting from us? If you have 1,000, well, it's more difficult. You're going to use surveys. People are not going to reply to them as much. So yes, I would usually go for the smaller, more engaged. But if your business model is about something else, then try single opt-in.
Okay, so generally speaking, we're talking quality, not quantity, but there can be some exceptions.
For sure.
Okay, finally, there's a question here. I mean, I think we kind of stumbled across it. Well, we didn't stumble across it. We answered this one. I might even attempt an answer myself, and you can try and add to
Go
it.
ahead.
Question: should we be afraid of AI as marketers? And drawing from your previous answer, I would be suggesting absolutely not. It's understandable that there's a somewhat of a fear about it, but we should be moving towards it, embracing it, using it as a tool purely for our benefit. I think that's the essence of it. Is there anything that you would like to add on top of that there?
Yeah, I think I understand how marketers are afraid of AI, and it comes in many ways. Content, SEO, social media, email marketing. Yes, it comes everywhere, and it is scary. But at the same time, if you are the one that tells it to do stuff for you, to create stuff that usually was mundane for you, would take you much time. There's nothing to be afraid of if you can spend more time on the valuable things, on what you're best at, on the things that drive your business forward. Then I wouldn't be afraid. I would be happier, and I would embrace it.
Again, I think it's just about getting over that upfront fear, and then the rewards will be there for you after you work through it and learn the technology. Okay, that's it for our questions, and that's it for our presentation. So Michał, thank you so much once again for taking us through this and sharing these really valuable nuggets of knowledge. I guess a question for you maybe finally is, where can people get access to this report if they want to go through it in their own leisure?
Sure. So if you've not visited our website just yet, go to getresponse.com/resources. And there at the top, you should have the email marketing benchmarks report. It should be the number one thing, but at the same time, you can see the link here now on the screen. So definitely visit our website. If you want additional content regarding this report, check out our blog as well, getresponse.com/blog, where we deep dive into those insights and what you can find there as well. But in the report itself, we have plenty of expert comments that will help you understand that data better.
Excellent stuff. And a final shout out for me, I would say follow this guy on LinkedIn. He's posting full of great knowledge. Michał Laczynski, good luck with the Polish surname, but if you manage to get him, give him a follow. And that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you once again to Michał. And yeah, enjoy the report.